Let me tell you about the moment that broke the internet. March 27th, 2026. BTS walks into the iHeartRadio studio for Elvis Duran and the morning show in New York City. It is their first major American radio appearance since their comeback. 7 members, 1 studio, and 1 question that nobody, not even the host, was prepared for the way Jimin was going to answer it. By the time it was over, Army was on the floor, literally sobbing from laughter. The clip went everywhere: Twitter, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, fan edits. And if you haven't seen it yet, that is exactly why you're watching this video right now. Because we are going to break down not just that moment, but everything that happened in that studio on that day. And by the end of this, you will completely understand why ParkJimin is, without question, the single most unpredictable member in the history of BTS. Stay with me, because this is not just about one funny moment. This is about a pattern. A very specific, very deliberate, very Jimin kind of chaos. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. But first, if you're new here, welcome. Hit that subscribe button right now, because this channel covers everything BTS, and we are not slowing down. And if you've been here before, you already know that when it comes to content about Jimin, we go deep. So let's get into it. March 27th, 2026. BTS is back. Not just back together, back in America, back in New York City, back in front of a microphone, and ready to take on the world again after everything they've been through. The boys have just released their documentary BTS. The return on Netflix, the Arirang World Tour is officially announced and kicking off in Korea, and the energy around this comeback is unlike anything the fandom has experienced in years. The excitement is real. The stakes are real. And BTS walks into the Elvis Duran studio calm, collected and professional. For the first part of the interview, everything is exactly what you'd expect. Elvis Duran, one of the biggest radio hosts in America, welcomes them back. He reminds them it's been 6 years since they last sat in that studio, and the members reflect on what it felt like to come back. They talk about the nerves of standing on stage again as 7, about how intense it was when they performed at Gwangwon for the first time after the military. They admit they were terrified. They wanted to be perfect. And if you know BTS, you know that terrified but perfect is basically their default setting. They talk about Swim, the lead single from Arirang, and this is the part that a lot of people slept on, but it is genuinely one of the most emotional segments of the entire interview. One of the members, and this moment is pure BTS, opens up about the creative process behind the song. He explains that during the months they spent in military service, counting down the days, 550 days, he kept thinking about swimming, about not fighting the current, about trusting the wave to take you somewhere, even when you couldn't see where you were going. He even reveals that there were 2 versions of one of the key lyrics, and the members debated it seriously. I could spend a lifetime watching you versus wonder where the waves are taking you. They chose the first one, but he loved both. And the fact that a song written in the middle of military service became a global hit, that's the kind of full-circle storytelling that only BTS can deliver. And then the interview shifts gears. Elvis Duran says, and I want you to picture this. He says, let's play TMI. Tell me something about another member that maybe none of us know. And what comes out of that game is absolute gold. One member reveals that another member bought a Nintendo gaming console but couldn't even play it because the payment failed. And then that member, the one with the failed payment, raises his hand and basically confesses that yes, it was him, and he is, quote, out of money. At which point cash starts getting passed around the studio, people are handing him bills, and the whole thing dissolves into chaos for about 30 seconds. This is BTS unfiltered. This is what happens when you get 7 people who have been through everything together into a room and ask them to just be themselves. But that moment, that's just the warm-up, because then comes the question. One of the hosts looks at all 7 members and asks, and I need you to really picture the setup here, she asks. You all know each other very well at this point. If you were on a tour bus, and the bus broke down in the middle of nowhere, who is making it out alive from the wilderness? Now, stop right there. Think about how most people would answer that question. You'd expect someone to nominate the tallest member, or the one with the most survival instincts, or maybe whoever has the most energy. You might expect a joke or two, but nothing could prepare you for how this played out. The first answer comes quickly. Namjoon, RM, gets nominated immediately. And not just nominated. The description given is that he's like a walking GPT. He knows everything. He's the most brilliant, the most learned. If the bus breaks down in the middle of nowhere, RM is the one who figures out where you are, how to get food, which direction is north, and probably writes a philosophical essay about the experience while he's at it. That nomination lands perfectly. It makes total sense. RM is the leader. RM is going to handle the situation. And then the follow-up question comes. The host asks, who would not make it out? And here is where ParkJimin enters the chat. Before anyone else can answer, before anyone else can even think, Jimin shouts RM. Not a suggestion, not a gentle joke, a full shout, and then physically hands RM some money. Let that land for a second. The man who was just crowned the survival genius of the group, the walking GPS, the human encyclopedia, Jimin just looked him dead in the eyes and handed him cash. Like a tip. Like, here, you're going to need this. Like RM was a street performer who just finished a good set, and Jimin was the only audience member generous enough to pay him. The studio erupts. The host cannot breathe. The other members are falling apart. And RM is just standing there, holding the money, trying to process what just happened to his entire identity. This is the moment. This is the clip. This is why ARMY lost their minds. But here's the thing. Here's what I want you to understand. That moment didn't happen by accident. It wasn't a slip. It wasn't Jimin just reacting without thinking. That moment was fully, completely, 100% ParkJimin operating at peak unpredictability, and it tells you everything about who he is. Let's talk about what makes Jimin so specifically, so uniquely unpredictable, because I think there are people who might look at that clip and think it's just a funny ad-lib. It is not. It is a masterclass in comedic timing, group dynamics, and the specific kind of chaos that only Jimin is capable of delivering. First, the timing. Jimin didn't wait. He didn't think it over. The second the question shifted to who would not make it out, he had already calculated the move. He already knew where he was going. He shouted RM's name before the laughter from the previous answer had even finished fading. That's not accident. That's instinct. That is someone who has spent years reading rooms, reading people, and knowing exactly when to strike for maximum impact. Second, the physical element. He didn't just say RM's name. He handed him money. He came prepared with a prop, or he improvised so quickly that it felt prepared. And the physicality of that gesture is what elevated it from a good joke to an iconic moment. Anyone can make a verbal joke. Jimin made a scene. A fully staged, perfectly executed, spontaneous little scene that looked like it had been rehearsed. Third, the target. He picked RM, the leader, the one who had just been crowned the ultimate survivor. The contrast is what made it so devastating. If Jimin had picked someone else, someone who hadn't just been put on a pedestal, the joke lands at maybe a 7 out of 10. But because he picked the exact person who had been elevated and immediately knocked him down in the most affectionate, ridiculous way possible, it landed at a 12. This is why we talk about Jimin differently when it comes to BTS group dynamics. Because Jimin is not just funny. He is strategically funny. He understands narrative. He understands setup and payoff. He understands that the best joke is the one that feels inevitable in hindsight but completely shocking in the moment. And he has been doing this for years. Think about every group interview BTS has ever done. Think about every variety show appearance, every live stream, every unscripted moment where the camera caught something it wasn't supposed to catch. How many of those moments feature Jimin as either the instigator, the accelerant, or the final blow that completely destroys everyone's composure? The answer is more than you can count. And what's brilliant about Jimin is that he does it without ever breaking character. He stays completely composed. He delivers the chaos, and then stands there, calm, while everyone around him falls apart. That composure is part of the joke. The contrast between what he just did and how unbothered he looks afterward is what makes it so funny. But here's the layer that I want to add to this, because I think it's important, and I think it's something that fans feel but don't always articulate directly. Jimin's unpredictability isn't just comedy. It's also deeply emotional. It's the same quality that makes him so unpredictable in serious moments too. The same instinct that made him hand RM money in a radio interview in New York City is the same instinct that made him stand on stage after the first Arirang concert and speak honestly to ARMY about how emotional it was to be back. It's the same impulse. Do the thing that feels true. Do it immediately. Don't calculate. Don't overthink. Don't perform what you think is expected. Just do the thing that is real. And that is Jimin's superpower. In a group of 7 incredibly talented, incredibly thoughtful people, all of whom are deliberate and intentional about almost everything they do, Jimin is the one who acts on instinct. Every time. Without hesitation. And 99% of the time, his instinct is correct. His instinct is funny when it needs to be funny. His instinct is vulnerable when it needs to be vulnerable. His instinct is exactly right for the moment, every single time. That's not luck. That's a kind of emotional intelligence, so advanced it looks like magic from the outside. Now, going back to the Elvis Duran interview, because there's more in that conversation that I think deserves attention. After the tour bus survival moment, after RM has accepted the money, and the studio has partially recovered, the conversation moves into more personal territory. The hosts ask what the members miss most when they're on tour. What do they miss from home? And the answers are warm and real. Korean food comes up. Of course it does. They are Korean food lovers, and they joke that at least in 2026, Korean food is everywhere, even in New York. One member says he's so lucky to be living in 2026 as a Korean, which got a big laugh. And it's a beautiful little moment of national pride wrapped in humor. They talk about American fast food. The members have tried it. They have opinions, and the energy when the subject of In-N-Out comes up is exactly what you'd expect from a group of Korean guys who have been touring the world. They talk about who cooks in the group, and one member specifically gets called out for definitely not being the chef. And without skipping a beat, he says, "Don't look at me. I don't know how to cook." In the same energy, he said he got a driver's license but doesn't know how to park a car, which is a whole other moment from this interview that deserves its own video. And then the interview closes on something that I think is genuinely one of the most moving things BTS has said in recent memory about ARMY. Elvis Duran asks them, "What is ARMY to BTS? What kind of energy do your fans give you that keeps you going? Are they your fuel?" And the answer that comes back is this: ARMY is BTS itself. ARMY is our identity. Because when we started, we didn't know we would be this successful. We were just a group in Korea enjoying our music. And ARMY was the one who marketed us to the world. ARMY was the one who showed us to everyone. So when you ask what ARMY is to BTS, ARMY is us. That answer hit different in 2026. Because BTS has been through a lot. The military, the solo journeys, the years apart, and to come back and still say that, with that level of sincerity, in front of a global radio audience. That's the kind of thing that reminds you why this fandom is the way it is. Why ARMY shows up the way they show up. Because BTS has never once taken it for granted. They also share a celebrity sighting story that genuinely surprised even the hosts. Matthew McConaughey came to their concert in 2019 with his son, came backstage, and one of the members was so starstruck because he loves Interstellar so much. The way he described it, you could hear in his voice that it was still one of those moments he holds on to. A reminder that even at the level BTS operates at, there are still people who can walk into a room and make one of them feel like a fan. And that humanity, that realness, is part of what makes them so magnetic. They close out by talking about the world tour, which kicks off in Korea, moves through Japan, and eventually arrives in New York City, and they make a promise to ARMY. They acknowledge that they've grown older since the last time they performed together as 7. They acknowledge that time has passed, but they commit. They say they will stay healthy, stay fit, bring back the energy of their 20s, and show up on that stage for every single person who waited for them. And when you think about everything that went into this moment, the military service, the solo journeys, the reunion, the album, the documentary, the comeback stage at Gwangwamun, the Netflix release, the iHeartRadio interview, the tour announcement, it becomes clear that what we are watching in 2026 is not just a comeback. It is a return in the truest sense of the word. These 7 men left. They grew. They came back with more experience, more depth, more music, more humor, more of themselves to give. And Jimin, as always, is right in the middle of it, being exactly who he has always been. Unpredictable, instinctive, emotionally devastating in the best possible way. The member who will hand you money in the middle of a national radio interview and look completely unaffected by the chaos that follows. The member who will cry on stage and laugh backstage and always do the thing that feels most true in the moment. There is no one like him in this industry. There is no one like him in this group. And if that radio interview proved anything, beyond the survival skills of RM or the payment issues of a certain Nintendo-owning member, it proved that ParkJimin, 7 years in multiple world tours in post-military service, post-solo journey, back as 7, is still the most surprising person in any room he walks into. And we would not have it any other way. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. I want to know, what was your reaction when you first saw that clip? Drop it in the comments right now. Tell me what went through your mind the second Jimin handed RM that money. I need to know. And while you're down there, let me know what other moments from the Elvis Duran interview you want us to break down next, because there is so much more in that 22 minutes that deserves its own video. Don't forget to like this video if you learned something new, subscribe if you're not already here, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a BTS breakdown. We have a lot more coming. The Arirang World Tour is happening, the Netflix documentary is out, and Jimin is going to keep doing exactly what Jimin does, which means we are going to have a lot of content to cover together. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, and as always, Army, you already know. We got this!